Welcome to Charging the Agency Frontier. Today I'm joined by Jason Resnick of Rezzz. I don't know how long I'm supposed to say the three Z's, but Jason specializes in word of mouth marketing. And I think agencies will really enjoy this episode, as most say that they rely almost exclusively on word of mouth marketing and referrals for their leads and new business. So if you have ideas, ways to help them kind of take it to the next level, then I think that would be pretty amazing. So today we're going to discuss some specific strategies, tactics for catalyzing and building word of mouth. But Jason, before we get started, can you give me a little color on kind of who you are, where you come from, a little bit on your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's definitely a topic that is near and dear to my heart because it is the way that I've built my business. And so, as you mentioned, Rezzz with three Z's is what most people know me as online. I've grown up, quote unquote, in the agency world. That's where I was basically right out of college. And I worked for wide open consultant firms that basically took on anything that came their way. But I also was as specialized in a design firm that I worked at that only dealt with flight schools. So I've run this sort of gamut of how niche and how general you can actually be. And what I've found over the course of my career is, especially when I was working within those agencies, but then in 2010, when I started my own business, word of mouth was prevalent. I mean, the stats say what it is nowadays. It's like 63% of people don't believe ads, but yet 92% of people will purchase from something that their friends said that they should. And so for me, I'm always of the mindset to double down on what's working and let's just attempt to try other things. But if it doesn't work, let's not waste time there and put that time back into what is working. So for me, I've never spent one ad dollar on my services. I've essentially built this referral engine, this word of mouth engine, if you will, by really just 5 pillars in my business to do so that I spark that word of mouth interest.
So Jason, you mentioned the pillars. What are these pillars?
Yeah, so it's follow-up, PS, warm outreach, and follow-up and referrals and testimonials.
Gotcha. I'm sure we'll get into that as we dive into some of these questions. All right, so let's do that. Let's dive right in. I think most of the audience is going to think that they know what word of mouth marketing is, but let's just define it up front to make sure that there's ultimate clarity and then dive into it from there. So how do you define word of mouth marketing?
The key term there is marketing, right? It's a strategy that you implement to spark inspiration, to have someone else recommend you to somebody else. So the key here is it's a strategy. It's not by chance. It's not just by accident. And you sort of build this into your business so that you get that predictability coming in. I know from my own business that I know I'm guaranteed to get a certain number of leads minimum per month into my business, just based on the things that I do. It's not expected, it's not happenstance. It's not, hey, my number one referral is word of mouth. And then when you ask them somebody, like, oh, what do you do for that? Oh, I don't know. It just happens.
Right. You're saying the right activities yield the right results.
Exactly right.
Build more of a consistent pipeline. Whereas I would agree, most agencies that, when I ask them about their marketing and they say word of mouth is our marketing, it's code for we're not doing anything and we don't have a strategy. It's basically we just don't do anything. We wait for stuff to come through the door and that's that. So you're saying that there's a more strategic way of going about it. That it's word of mouth is one thing, word of mouth marketing is another.
Exactly right. Yeah. And the thing is like I said, I'm of the mindset of just sparking inspiration. It's as simple as that, right? Like your clients, past clients are thinking about themselves, their businesses, and what's going on in their lives, both professionally and personally. They're not thinking about you. So you have to sort of inspire them to be able to create that opportunity to give recommendations to your friend. to their friends and colleagues and their networks. So that's where I'm coming from with all of this is giving them the opportunity, reminding them, inspiring them to share when they hear an opportunity that you may be a good fit for, that you're front of mind with them.
Yep. Got it. The next question is how effective is word of mouth marketing? And I just want to chime in to, before I hear your perspective and if you don't mind, just kind of share that, I think to me, it's tremendously effective. And, I think we're matchmakers, agency matchmakers. And so, we make our living out of connecting brands and agencies and bridging those two worlds. And in a way, it's similar to word of mouth where, the agencies that we bring opportunities to, are essentially the opportunity is more winnable. There's a much higher win rate because it came from our recommendation and it came from, they have inherited credibility through Bull and Beard. And so they're not just looked at as agency Y, they're looked at as agency Y, which agency matchmaker B recommends, which we trust. And so there's different dynamics. So obviously it affects our business in a tremendous ways and certainly agencies and brands. But in your experience, how effective is word of mouth marketing and what does the ceiling look like as far as, what can be accomplished through word of mouth?
Yeah. So, I mean, the stats go, and even if you just Googled it, you're going to get infographic on top of infographic from much more smarter places that gather up all this information. But the stats prove it. Like I said, like over 90% of people that actually buy something will buy if their friend recommended it. And you're evident of that, right? And so from my own experience, it's true. It happens time and time again. When I'll get a response from an email, and it's just as simple as, and this is how I started doing this, I correspond with email with my clients all the time, status updates, launch updates, all of these sort of things. I just added a PS at the bottom saying, hey, this was awesome. I love to be for you, and I'm excited that this is out into the wild. If you just hear of anybody else that has a similar problem or a similar situation, I'd love an intro. That's it. And you just leave it at that. But that on several different types of emails, not on every single email, but on opportunities, then I know that I'm going to get maybe 1 in 13, 1 in 14 coming back to me with an intro, maybe not right away, but later on with a potential lead. Be able to put that in the front of the pipeline. And then there's this, what's funny is there's this exponential like snowball effect that happens with that, because once you start to get into somebody's circle, right, you get one person in there, then you get 2 people in there, then they have similar friends and colleagues and things. And then you're starting to bounce around in their own inner circle, if you will. So it starts to really snowball effect to bring leads into your pipeline. So you mentioned the ceiling. I don't know that there is a ceiling, to be honest with you. Case in point, I had a client several years back. I haven't done any work with them. They still give me referrals on a regular basis. And it was just because of one gesture that I did at the launch of their website, which I didn't think anything of it at the time. And this goes into one of the pillars is milestone happiness, is that the client loved baseball, lived out in the Midwest. There was no real baseball, no Major League Baseball team there. There was a minor league team, a local team. And he used to take his son there all the time. His son was 9 at the time. We launched their website. I just sent him tickets to congratulate him. I think it was like $50 or $75 for the both of them. And I sent them a card and I said, have a night with your son at the ballpark. Have an awesome time. Congratulations on the launch. He still sends me referrals. And this is like 2.5, 3 years later. So I asked him one day that thanks again. Like, this is awesome. Like, is there anything I can do for you? Is there any projects that you have or anything?
I like football. I like basketball.
Exactly right. He was just like, no, he's like, the thing is that you reached out, you didn't just say, here's a night out at the ballpark, right? What you did was you reached at that extra level. You said, here's a night out for you and your son at the ballpark. So you brought my son into it and you made a great night for him. So for me, if I could give a referral, that's a great lead for you. That's all. I'll keep doing that until you're out of business, right? And so I was like, well, you keep doing that, I'm going to be in business for an awful long time. But but that's why I feel like there's no ceiling on it, because it's being a human being in a way that's, you're asking for the referral, but not asking for it at the same time.
Yeah. It sounds like you went, I mean, like you said, kind of that extra step. And I've had gifts like that where, I've gotten like a really nice, kitchen knife set and engraved with my wife and I's like instead of promo branding, by the company, it's actually engraved with my wife and I's name and like anniversary and all this kind of stuff. And it just, every time I use it, I think of the company that gave it to me. And it's just a long, so I was going to ask about that. I mean, on the gifting side, incentivification, do you ever give a commission or incentives for referrals that are sent your way? What does that look like?
To be honest with you, I have never incentivized. I get why you would do it, and I understand why people do it. Like in and of itself, like saying, hey, for every one client that you send us, we'll give you $100 off or whatever it could be. I don't know. I never had to. Like, I just never did it that way. I would just, I guess, give back to them in some other way.
Do you think the relationship-based approach is the way to go? I mean, you've invested in the gifting side, or go over delivering on, or value adding on, a particular deliverable.
Exactly.
Stuff like that is how you earn that.
Yeah, exactly. But one interesting strategy on that I want to share with you, that I talked with somebody else about this too, was what she does. And she was sort of new, her agency was only 18 months old, but she was really trying to get into this specific niche. And so what she did was, she said her projects for her agency was going to cost you X dollars. And she put this in the contract. It was going to cost X dollars. If you refer me, once we're launched, X number of clients that I close back, I'll give you X dollars back on your project. So I thought that was a little smart, because she was trying to get her foot in the door in a new niche or a new market for herself. But at the same time, you're not necessarily incentivizing them to just send you referrals, but to send you good referrals, because she put that cap to close. Yeah. Right. And the other thing is that there was no pressure, right? Like, it was like, hey, if they were willing to do it for this price, that's fine. She got paid already. The client paid, they were happy. Well, now the referral thing is just kind of like an add-on. It's just like this, oh yeah, I could recommend 2 or 3 people. And if she closes one, then I just get a bonus check, if you will. Right. And so I thought that was a little bit of a more smart way of doing it.
Gotcha. All right. So how do you create word of mouth marketing? Where do you start?
I think you have to start with whoever you want to work with the most. Right? So you have to understand, like, I mean, in anybody's agency, there are clients that you love and there's clients that you not so love, right? And so if you want to work with more clients and more projects that you absolutely love, then you start there. And it's, like I said before, it's as simple. If you're not doing it, just put that simple PS. Right? Just a little spark. If it's a weekly update email, if it's a milestone launch email, if it's a full project launch email, whatever it is, just put that one sentence that says, hey, I really enjoyed this. If you know somebody else, then I wouldn't mind an introduction. And it's as simple as that. And that's where I started this foundation. The second and really powerful tool in this whole word of mouth marketing is your network. Right? Your colleagues, your friends, the people that understand what you do. Because what happens is all you need to do is make your list. Let's just say it's 50 people, right? Send an email to one person a week. So now you've got a whole year, essentially, of emails that are going out. And you just say, hey, just in case you hear of anybody that, and put your elevator pitch there if you want, or specific projects that you want to work for, or specific market that you're targeting, I wouldn't mind an introduction. And it's just planting that seed. It's not spammy. It's not this cold outreach campaign. You don't need 1 million follow-ups. It's not really scientific, if you will.
It's awareness.
Exactly.
So that, yeah. I mean,
and you're not spamming your friends.
Yeah, we have a saying here at Bull and Beer because we're all Western and we're not really Western. We're in North Carolina, but like the Western motif. That's why I got the stable, whatever. But
Absolutely. I love that.
timing has a lot to do with the outcome of a rain dance, and that's always true when it comes to new business and opportunities and referrals. And you might email somebody and it's the wrong time, but you might give them the context and awareness so that when it's the right time, you are top of mind, and they're going to make that referral and know how to handle that, which is something, I mean, we have to emphasize with members of our collective, agencies that are in our collective, where we're bringing them new business opportunities from brands, but also agencies, if they have an opportunity that's not a good fit for them, they can send it to us and we'll give them a third of our commission from the match, and so they get some financial incentive as well. And then essentially, we take that deal and find an agency partner that is the right fit and take care of their customer. And that's happened, but I've noticed that that's only really happened when we've been very conscientious about letting them know that, hey, if you send us business, we'll give you a third of our commission and we'll take care of it. And they'll, it's like a concierge for your clients. You don't have to, you can get out of the politics of the decision and recommending the wrong resource, whatever. If we don't emphasize that and talk about it, then chances are we're not going to really hear anything. If we do, we've actually gotten great opportunities from agencies where it wasn't the right fit for them, but they passed it over to us and we were able to find somebody that was a fit. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, is like, there's always this ebb and flow with work too, right? Like it would be an ideal client for you, but yet you just you don't have the bandwidth, or you don't have the timeline. The timeline's mismatched. Like, you just can't do it for them. Well, why not refer that off, right? To somebody, make yourself a connector of sorts too, right? From the other end, you're actually allowing that your friend, your colleague, your network to say, hey, look, Robby, he knows what he's doing. Jason, he knows what he's doing. I can pass you along to them. They're going to take care of you nicely. And so it's just a way in which they'll come back to you if the match works nicely too, because they're so, well, he matched me up with these people. Maybe there's somebody else that he knows, or maybe he does that thing. Right. And so you're giving that opportunity to also create that network effect, that be that go-to person that could solve a problem with somebody, even if it isn't you in the first place.
What are some specific ideas for building word of mouth?
Yeah, like one of the things is really just think like a human, right? Like one of the big things that I don't know, I just always had was think of your experience as your client comes through your business. How does it look? What does it look like to them, right? Is it unique? Does it stand out? Is there something that could stand out? Or is it just like everything else, like your past experience, maybe as an agency employee, if you will, right? Is it just the same? Because what happens is that experience that comes through, that's what they're going to remember. Just like I mentioned about the gentleman, right? That gives me the leads about the baseball. I just ordered him tickets, right? And so for me, it was not a big deal. It was just me as a diehard baseball fan. I was like, hey, I know he's a baseball fan, and so is his son. Let me just do that and celebrate the launch. But the thing is I created that memorable moment. And if you just create that memorable moment once in a while, it goes a long way to stick in somebody's brain to keep you front of mind. Like you said, like every time you use those knives, you think of that person that gave you those knives. And so it's a matter of just think like a human, think like the experience. People go away, to the Caribbean to go on the beach and to drink some umbrella drinks and scuba dive because it's the experience of it all. Otherwise, I live in New York. I could go off of Long Island and go scuba diving in whatever waters are out there, right? But it's the whole experience there. And so, the first thing that I would think about when you want to start creating word of mouth is it has to be remarkable enough, right? Jay Baer talks about this in his book, Talk Triggers, is it's remarkable, right? It means that somebody has to actually, right, it has to be worth that. And so if you don't create that remarkable experience, nobody's going to talk about it in the first place.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the word remarkable. Seth Godin, with Purple Cow years ago, and just that whole analogy. I love it. And actually my personal motto for like the last 15 years has been be remarkable, just be somebody worth talking about, be somebody that somebody wants to, tell their friends about. Like that's a pretty good, I don't know,
Love it.
benchmarker wherever you want to go. All right. So you said you never spend any money on ads. So is this something that you recommend to your clients, or are you just saying that you've had enough business from word of mouth to be more than successful, and you're continuing down that path? Or do you recommend clients that you work with still do other forms of advertising, but beef up their word of mouth marketing strategy? Like, what's your philosophy there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always of setting up the organic. I don't recommend to my clients not to spend ad money, right? I look at ad money more of like a faucet, right? Like you could turn it on and turn it off. But if the underlying foundation for the sustainability of the business isn't there, when you turn off that ad, what happens? Nothing, right? Like you don't get any leads into the business if you don't have that organic. So for me, that's where I go to first. I try to set up for my clients a way in which it's the engine, and the ad is more like the fuel to the engine, right? So you could go with a higher octane and pour ad money in, or you could just go with regular and cruise along, right? And so for me, that's where I sit with the ad spend.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I will spend ad money. Like I just, it's not in the cards right now because of my marketing, right? Like you go to my website, it talks all about my coaching side of the business, right? It doesn't talk about my services side, but services are 80% revenue of my business. It's just my website doesn't attract those people because of the engine that I've built for that word of mouth marketing. Vendor relationships is a big key for me. One time somebody asked me, what's your second lead generation tactic? So I was curious. I'm like, second? What's second got to do with anything? Or why don't you want to know the number one? He said, well, I'm assuming it's going to be word of mouth. I said, oh, okay, good point. Well, what I didn't know what the answer was at that time. But then when I went back and looked, the leads were coming in through vendors that I closely work with, right? So I'm ConvertKit expert, Drip expert, WooCommerce expert. That's who I focus in on. And so I found that they were coming from
Strategic
those support
partnerships.
things. Exactly. And it wasn't really strategic partnerships at all. It was just, that's what I built my business on those platforms. So I use those tools. I built relationships over the years with their support teams and their higher ups and things of that nature. And so I get their recommendations when they get their customers wanting custom stuff, right? They're just worried about their products. They're not going to build custom features and enhancements to their products for their customers. So I have these relationships with them, and they say, hey, go to Jason. He can handle that for you. And so that, as I look at it, is not my second lead generation tactic. That's part of my word of mouth marketing. And now I just build those relationships when and where I can. And so it's a matter of just being present and building those relationships. It's not necessarily ads. While many people say, hey, I'm going to target spend some ad money on and target the ConvertKit Facebook group. I don't need to do that. ConvertKit people, the employees inside that Facebook group, tag me anyway. So why do I need to spend money to do that? So I'm always organic first, ad second.
Gotcha. And then in terms of, let's say that a digital agency owner comes to you and says, we want some help on the word of mouth marketing side. How do you typically, what does an engagement look like? Do you do a workshop with them? Do you develop a strategy? Do you look at their different accounts and kind of mine for opportunities? All of the above? Like what does that typical engagement look like? Because I know there's probably going to be brands and agencies, interested in this area that would be kind of curious, like what your process, what your approach would look like.
Yeah, for the most part, it's more of a workshop training sort of scenario, right? And so it's what are they, I have to understand what they're doing, what type of customers they have, what engaged are they? Are they just surface level, or are they really deeply engaged? Is it a small team, big team? So there's really just sort of an audit at first that allows me then to tailor the workshop in the way that they need to, right? And so, like I said before, some people may be doing that PS already. I mean, online you see that PS in just about every single email days, but 10 years ago it didn't. And so it works for me, still gets me referrals because I see people replying back off of that. But if you're already doing that, so how can we create
I
some
mean,
experience?
I rarely see the PS notes. I rarely
Oh
see
yeah.
agencies ask for, or brands for that matter, ask for testimonials and be intentional about, that piece, and driving some of that social proof. It seems like they're just waiting for the client to send them a testimonial. And it's like, that's not how it works. You have to,
Right, right.
ask for it, and give them, maybe touch on this topic and this topic. Like, we got a testimonial yesterday, and, and she was like, can you just write it and I'll sign off on it? I'm like, I can't really do that, but like, I'll give you some key points, and, based on what I saw of the relationship, you do your own thing, and give me the final testimony. I'll feel comfortable with that. But it's definitely something like I have to be intentional about, as far as asking for referrals, asking for testimonials, asking for that sort of thing. I mean, if you don't, squeaky wheel gets the grease. I mean, if you don't ask, then
Absolutely.
people just don't go there. They don't think about it.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point there, that's what I help mostly with, is where to ask people and how to ask, right?
The
Because
context ask, yeah.
case in point, hey, can you just write the testimonial and attach my name to it and I'll sign off on it? Don't do that. You ask certain questions. What do you need from the testimonial for it to be good, right? Like, you just want to say, hey, these guys are awesome. Like, while that's great, and that could be a nice tweet for you, but that doesn't really help in the context of where are you putting this testimonial? Are you putting it on your services page? Are you putting it on a blog post? Are you put it, so all of those things play into what you ask and how you ask it. And like you said, referrals and testimonials, those two things go hand in hand. And a lot of people are like, do I ask for one or the other or both? And they usually, they ask me a lot of times is, can I ask for both of them at the same time? Because if they're happy with me, wouldn't they want to do both? And I say that you can, but you're more likely if you just ask one. So what are you looking for? Are you looking for more leads? Like, what you have to figure out what your goals are, right? So if you're looking for more leads, then set up the referrals. If you're looking for more social proof, you're looking for more content on your site, you're looking to drive people more in that way through maybe email marketing and things of that nature, well, then let's ask for testimonials. Once you get enough, then you flip the switch and you go ask for the referrals. So like I said, it's more of a workshop sort of scenario where I work through their specific needs and goals to then be able to create that better experience for their client.
During that workshop, you're probably working with key stakeholders as far as
Absolutely.
new
It has
business
to be.
director, account people, who's an agency. I mean, you're going to have different roles in the room that are interacting with clients on a regular basis. And
It has to be through word of mouth. It has to be top down. The word of mouth has to happen from the top down. Otherwise it just doesn't work.
yeah, gotcha. I wanted to ask, when it comes to new business and referrals specifically, do you feel extra pressure to take extra care with them in order to avoid hurting the relationship and kind of with the things at stake? And that's, again, a reason why we get referrals from those agencies sometimes, is because they don't want to put their name on the line, reputation on the line by making a referral to another agency. They can send it to us, and then it's our fault if we make the wrong recommendation, which is good and bad. But no, that's something that our business is based on. But what do you feel about that topic of, feeling like maybe a client is overburdened by referring work because then they feel personally responsible for it? Is there a way to address that or alleviate the pressure on them? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid fear that a lot of people have initially, right? Like, I think that you just kind of have to let them, if they had a good experience with you, there has to be that intrinsic trust, right? Like you talked about that at the top, was that the referral works and is more likely to close because there's that trust by proxy that happens, right? So if they trust you enough to send them their friend, best friend, their wife, their husband, whatever it could be. Well, they're sort of thinking that that person's going to go through the exact same experience that they had, right? And so when you get a referral and you start handling them, just make sure you don't have to go above and beyond. Think about it as, like I said, I've been doing this for my business for almost a decade at this point, and every client follows the exact same process, right? They hit the same milestones, they hit the same happiness points, they hit all of the things the same all the way through. So no one client is getting like, oh, well, they pinged me on a Saturday night at 11 o'clock because they were a referral. I want to reach out to them. Like it doesn't happen. Like, I don't think like that, because it's unhooked, right? It's the experience that they're getting is the same, right? And so it's making sure that what you're doing for the business is the same for everybody that's going through it. And just free yourself of that idea that, you know, you do have that past relationship with that past client. You did so awesome with them that they referred you somebody. Yes, you want to take care of them, but there's no
But the
real
expectation
reason.
is overwhelming because, I mean, they're only expecting you to work as good as you worked with them. I mean, so it should just be
Exactly.
an authentic thing of let's do what we normally do and treat them how we normally treat clients. I mean,
Right. I don't think that they would think that there would be any difference. It's not like you could put them in the trash or whatever. Like, it's just,
right.
it's your business and it's your reputation at stake. So it's really just behooving on you to be able to just provide that same experience all the way through.
And I have heard, I mean, another point I was going to bring up is, you know, I've heard, I think in the YEC message board or Facebook group, you know, people have talked about referrals and they're like, I give referrals. And why does it always seem like when I give referrals, like the company that I refer the business to treats them like a second tier client instead of like it's just, you know, they take it for granted and it's not even that they're going to rise above. They don't even deliver them the normal caliber of service. They kind of just expect that, oh, since they're a referral, we'll get away with maybe putting in less work or spending less time on the proposal or that kind of thing because they have the inroad. So there's also that balance of you don't want to go that far either. I mean, you don't need to over deliver, but you don't want to under deliver on referrals. You want to make sure that you're still staying balanced, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think what a lot of people struggle with is that they get that referral. So what they do is they shortcut their processes, right? So in other words, like if you have an intake form and you don't even get on a sales call until that intake form, you know, is filled out and you get the person into your CRM and all the rest of it. If there's that referral because it came via email, now you have that and you're like, oh, I'll just pick up the phone and call. So now the experience is already broken, right? Like it's different, right? So now the whole thing of your process now with that singular contact is now a little different, right? Because now maybe not everybody on your team sees all of the information. There's things that are missed through the cracks, those sort of things, just because they didn't fill out a form, right? And so you want to make sure that the experience, no matter who it is, somebody off the street or, you know, your wife's best friend, right? To basically have that same exact experience. And as long as you do that, you'll be fine.
Consistency is key. Got it. All right. So we only have a couple minutes left, but before we stop, curious, why the three Z's? Why the Rezzz?
So it's really just laziness. I'm a developer, right? And so back in the day when I played video games, I was always Rezzz with two Z's, right? And so that's just a short of my first name. It's what, you know, as a kid, people just call me Rezzz. My last name is Resnick, right? So just short. And so my video game handle was Rezzz with two Z's. Well, Diablo came out. I wanted to play and Rezzz was taken. So I was like, oh, I just want to play the game. Okay. So I just added a third Z. And so as a developer, you're just lazy. You don't really want to get too much, right? And so I created and this goes back, I think it was like 2001, 2002 when I bought the domain name. I just wanted to put up a website and I was like, I don't know what website, what am I going to do? You know, like, and it was not a business website or anything of that nature. It was just me messing around sort of thing. And I was just like, I'll just make it Rezzz.com. And with 3 Z's, because that was my handle for the rest of my life at that point in time. And so I've just kept it that way. And people are like, how did you get like a five letter domain? And it's like short, it's nice, and like all that stuff. And I'm like, well, it's just, I carried it all the way through since I was a teenager. Yeah,
Never been approached by a travel reservation company or something like, oh, yeah,
no.
it's awesome.
But
all right, so we're at the end, but before we commence, I wanted to ask you, what question did I not ask that I should have asked?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You asked me about the Rezzz with 3 Z's, and that's a question that I never get asked, and so that was pretty cool. It's it's a little sidebar story thing. So I thought that was great. I mean, I think this was a great time. It's a topic that I could talk about all day long. And so I'm happy that you invited me here to talk about it.
Awesome. All right, Jason. Well, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go to Rezzz.com with 3 Z's, or find me on Twitter. I'm at Rezzz there too, also with 3 Z's.
Awesome. Well, appreciate your time today, and look forward to getting this published and pushed out to the community. And just appreciate the insights on word of mouth. It's a topic near and dear to a lot of people's hearts.
Yeah, thanks.